All right, so on my way home from work, I stopped at the grocery store and I talked to one of my grocery store friends, and she looked at me with such despair that I couldn't help but wonder what was wrong. And she looks at me and she says, Millennial Steam, I can't get an apartment. I don't make enough money. I make two times the cost of a regular apartment because here where I live, the average cost of an apartment now is $2,300 per month. Now, you tell me, how is someone making $15 an hour supposed to get an apartment? And the answer is you're not supposed to. The math doesn't work. But it gets much worse than that. She has a friend of hers who's going to try to forge pay stubs for her so she can go to an apartment complex with fake paycheck stubs and try to trick an apartment complex into renting an apartment to her. That's the state of housing in America right now because no one can make it. When Gen Z's rent is his entire monthly paycheck, there's no way that you can make it. Absolutely none. And yet we're forcing people, early 20s people, to go out there and try to build lives on child-sized paychecks. That's why I call all jobs are McDonald's. I don't work at McDonald's. All jobs are McDonald's. For all of you in the comments who keep asking that question, all jobs are McDonald's because they come with Happy Meals, they come with McPaychecks, and they come with put the fries in the bag, little bro. That's what every job in America has become. The good jobs that are supposed to be out there, they don't come down to the proletariat. We are stuck at $16 an hour. And there's actually the math to prove that that is intentional. And that's what the comment that was left that generated this video a couple of hours ago, he left this comment, and you guys are going to be blown away. But rent for poor people is always 100 times what you're making. So if you're making $5 an hour, your rent's $500 a month. And that was okay when the minimum wage was $5. And ironically, that math is so good that I remember what my mom was paying for the mortgage at our house when I was a little kid. It was $400 for a 5-bedroom house. Go figure, huh? Now we're paying $2,000 for a dinky rundown studio apartment in a piece of trash neighborhood in an apartment complex that is charging me $300 extra a month for a washer and dryer that don't work. It's been 4 months that it hasn't worked. And I just ran into the guy, the maintenance guy, I would say about 2 hours ago. I ran into him and it's like, hey man, you came to my apartment like 2 weeks ago and told me you were going to fix my stuff. Nothing in my apartment is fixed. And he just looked at me like, it's not his fault. Obviously, he's not all there. I mean, he's doing this type of work because this is the most money that he can make. And that's the problem with the proletariat, is that you can only do the job that you have the capacity to do. And most of us don't have the capacity to go above and beyond what we currently do. We live in a society that doesn't want to offer you training. You better show up day one with those 3 to 5 years of experience and 4 college degrees for $16 an hour. All right, let's get into our opening monologue. You ever notice how every job these days comes with an invisible expiration date? You walk in thinking you found stability, but reality, you're just a temp with a better name tag. Half the workforce is gone within 2 years. Quit, fired, or mutually separated, like it's a bad breakup. And all the while, your rent keeps chasing your paycheck like a debt collector with a Fitbit. Wow. Let's unpack that. I absolutely hate that phrase. One of my college professors, who was not shy about putting down students in her classroom for not being smart. She would tell you if your reply to something that she asked was stupid, and she'd call you stupid right in the middle of a class with 30 people. One of the most despicable professors I ever had at the university, and if she didn't have tenure, she would not have lasted at that university. This is a professor who wants to teach classes, but is always teaching comp. English 100. She's always teaching that class because the university has to keep her employed, but no one wants to take her classes because she's a grade A, you know what, hole. And unfortunately, people like that who end up in education give education a bad look because you run into these dinosaurs. They're tenured, they're over 50, and they're never going to leave. In fact, when I worked at the computer science department, when we finally had to clean out people's offices, it was because they bid it. They didn't retire, they bid it. And we had to go over, remove all of their stuff that it took them 20 years to collect in that little office, and they will not evacuate the premise until they're cold. We had a room, I think it was on the third floor, that was just books. Hundreds, if not thousands of books that were just left over. Because these people in education, they collect books. And they collect books until they put them straight into the ground. And so we had this giant library, and every once in a while we would have to give those books away because they just became so many. But yeah, let's get into talking point number one. For the last 2 decades, wages and rent have quickly risen in lockstep, about $1 per hour for every $100 a month in rent. This ensures that 100 hours of labor buys 1 month of shelter, locking workers into a constant survival cycle no matter how much wages increase. The same investor class profits from both sides. They own the companies that pay you and the properties you live in. If that is not the most unholy alliance that you can imagine. And what is this? Those people are capitalists. Those people own things. We don't even own our own lives. Nothing about the life down here at the bottom is comfortable. They know where you can afford to work. They know where you can afford to live. It's not an amazing coincidence that I live in this hellhole and I don't live in a house, and I will never live in a house. This is the best that I'm ever going to do for myself. And to tell you guys that McDonald's this week wasn't the most stressful week I have probably had at any job in my entire life. We were running the drive-through menu non-stop all week long. It was non-stop. It was relentless. It was fleece back there 8 hours a day. Pound Town was driving everyone insane. Right up until the minute I left today, my coworkers were stressed out of their minds. Like, I literally talked to a guy and he's like, man, I've got 4 people that need me right now. Yesterday afternoon, I was working right up to the second I left because we have to. You have to keep working at this pace because they will not hire more people. McDonald's wants to keep you sweating to the oldies nonstop. And the pace is becoming impossible. And no one will say anything. You know why? Because people who complain are people that aren't there anymore. If you're not grateful to be working your rear off like this, then you don't need that job, obviously. But I'm seeing it all around me. My coworkers are failing in real time. I'm watching them just start giving up because it's impossible. It's called learned helplessness. When you get to work and there's so much work that you can't do it, what do? You don't just keep trying. Eventually, you just start giving up. Because no matter what you do, there's too much of it. There's not enough people, and this is every single McDonald's in America. There's not enough people to do the jobs, and they will not hire more. They just make certain that they have 50% turnover. I've literally seen thousands of people leave McDonald's over the past 4 years. Thousands. And the replacement shows up. He's there for 6 months. Boom. You see the form come in. They're gone. And I've asked people why they don't want to get promoted in other parts of McDonald's, right? It's like, why don't you take that job? It's open again. They're like, taking that job is, it's not worth it. They're jobs that just keep turning over, turning over. Every once in a while, you'll see someone stay for maybe 9 months. Then they're gone. Then you come in the next day and someone else is working the drive-through, just like a gas station. Today I had to stop in and get a little gas. For some reason, I only drove 50 miles this week, which is odd. Normally I drive double or triple that per week. This week was just 50. And I need to get some gas, and I walk up to the gas station and there's someone I've never seen before. Every week there's someone you haven't seen before at a grocery store. Every single week without fail. During the bug days at my local Kroger's, a lot of the old people, well, they're not here anymore. And there's a reason for that. They couldn't work remote. And so the old people, well, they're not here with us anymore. And the young people keep cycling through because what does this job pay? $15 an hour. What's your rent? $1,500. And you can't spend every single dime that you make. And I've told you guys this many, many times in a lot of videos over the years. Remember, once you've had the same message for 20 years, it's the same thing. This is unrealistic and unsustainable. I used to work at the Kroger's right up the street. They don't give you enough hours, and the schedule is very inconsistent. You upset the wrong person, you're going to come into work that next week and find yourself at the 4-hour shift. When I worked at Walmart a few years ago, the way that you knew that you weren't going to be there much longer is you would come in and check the schedule, and the schedule would say you only had a 4-hour shift. That's it. And an oddball shift, something like 10 to 2 or noon to 4. It wasn't a regular 6 a.m. To 2 p.m. shift or a 3 to midnight. No, it was one of those weird daytime shifts. And what do? Because at that point, you have to find another job. And if you have to tell your current employer that you have another job and you can't come in at the hours that they tell you, you're fired. It's that simple. I've seen them do it to people who would work mornings at Walmart and then in the afternoons they'd go work at a Walmart factory or warehouse. And the second they had to tell their boss that they couldn't change their schedule because they had something else to do, it was either they gave you that one shift or it was flat out termination. I saw a lot of plain terminations while I worked there because I was working at Walmart for 2.5 years. Same thing. I would say that their turnover rate was probably close to 200%. No one stayed. And if the managers didn't like something about your face, let's say you're not fixing your face today and you're frowning at work because you're broke, it's hard to make poor people smile other than sheer desperation. That's what makes poor people smile, is the fact that, well, I can't afford to eat today, but I better smile at work or else I won't be able to afford to eat tomorrow either. That's really what it comes down to. People don't smile because they want to. They smile because they're afraid that they'll lose their homes. That's why they do that to you. They don't want Debbie Downers showing up at Walmart knowing full well that Debbie sleeps in the dumpster out back where she also has her part-time job. It's not happy news. Corporations don't care about your overall happiness. They're there for the getting. And if they own your home and they also own your time, right? They own you. And looking at it from this perspective, it's easy to see that slavery is alive and well in this corporate America. Because if they own the means of production, but they also own your home, what's left for you? Absolutely nothing. Talking point number 2. With 50% turnover every 2 years, companies save money on raises, benefits, and long-term commitments. Burnout and instability are intentional. Temporary workers are easy to exploit, cheaper to replace, and less likely to organize. Workers become disposable assets in a system designed for churn and not stability. When was the last time you felt financially stable or felt like you had a job? I had this conversation this morning. One of my coworkers says to me, Millennial Stan, the way things are going here, none of us might have a job next week. And I said, it's just, as he put it so elegantly this morning, Millennial Steam, I'm just riding the wave until it crashes. And then I'm getting on the next wave and riding that wave till that crashes too. That's how we feel about employment in America. There's no stability. Financially, you're exhausted. I mean, the crisis in this country on people who are trying to stay alive is taking a mental toll across the entire country. If the 99% spend their time thinking about one thing, how am I going to pay my bills this month? That's all you think about. At night, I have to force myself to think about something else. I think about my fish tanks. I think about my plants. And that's it. I don't really have anything else to think about. I can't think about the next 8 hours because no one wants to think about fleece. At Pound Town, you're the commodity. And it's designed that way. And when everyone you talk to is having the same fears, shouldn't we do something about that? Haven't you ever wondered what you can do to stop it? The reality is we can't stop the capitalists from being capitalists. And you can't sell your wages to a non-evil corporation because they know exactly what they have to pay you to keep you coming back. $1 per, they have to pay you exactly how much you need to barely keep you alive. So they have to keep the minimum wage at $16 an hour right now just to keep you coming back. It's hard to get an employee to come back to work when they're already living in a dumpster. What incentive do you have if you have nothing to live for? Remember, you will own nothing and be happy. Every time you hear me say that, think about what that means. You will own nothing and be happy. Your $16 an hour isn't designed to buy you anything, but you better show up at work smiling and be happy. Talking point number 3. The math of modern living demands more hours than exists in a week, creating a permanent time deficit. Corporate messaging blames individuals. Manage your time better while selling unreachable goals like promotions, pay bumps, or affordable housing. This cycle maintains desperation, keeping workers applying, accepting worse jobs, and believing the problem is personal and not systemic. Remember, they have been trying to normalize these systemic problems as personal failures forever. Because if you don't make enough money working your 40-hour work week, what are you doing? Why are you wasting your time working at a job that's not going to pay you a living wage? Well, the simple solution is you need 3 of those jobs. Elevate yourself. Work 120 hours a week. And then figure out why you went crazy. Because one job right now is like working 5 jobs. You're not just doing one job. You're doing the job of a small crew. Every day you show up at your job and there aren't enough people there to do all the work. But if you can't do it, they'll find someone else who will, and for less money, and that will smile and show their teeth to good old fleece. Because fleece, more important than water, is you smile while he does the do. Smile, proles. Hey, remember, fleece says brush your teeth, proles. All right, let's get into our conclusion. The 50% turnover economy isn't about bad luck. It's about control. Keep people moving, keep them desperate, and they'll never stop chasing that next paycheck that barely covers the last month's bills. That's not failure on your part. That's the design. And until we stop playing their game, the only thing permanent about work will be the exhaustion it leaves behind. This is why so much of the population buys lottery tickets, because we can see that the system is unfair, that the system treats us poorly, and that we don't want to participate in that system. But guess what? Find another system. Stop working and see what bad things happen. Stop showing it up at work and smiling and see what bad things happen. Everything in our lives revolves around your employment if you're not rich. That's why the second you stop working, you start dying. And most people will not be able to tolerate living in their car like Claire on the Road is right now. I haven't spoken to Claire on the Road in a while. I saw her last video, but I didn't really find anything in it that compelled me to keep watching. Whatever happened to her, why she had to stop living in her car and then go into that hotel, well, bad things happen to you when you're out on the road, especially as a woman. It is much, much harder to be a woman and be homeless than it is a man. And that's why homelessness is typically a man's disease, because women will usually find someone to help them. I'm saying usually. I've seen at least 3 or 4 older homeless women. In fact, I passed one on the way into my apartment complex today. They're just sitting there with their shopping cart, just staring at the sun. And it was, I believe, the hottest day of the year yesterday. It was stinking hot. I mean, today, I think it was 113. But, man, yesterday was hot. I think you combine the heat with the relentless pace of work, and I mean, it's hard to stay motivated in Arizona. In fact, I was just talking to one of my McDonald's coworkers this morning, and she's like, I'm ready for this heat to be over. And I'm like, it wasn't even really a hot summer this year. Like last year, we had so many days, like 150 days of over 110 degree temperatures. It was hot last year. Anyhow, I hope you guys enjoyed listening to me in this video, and hopefully this weekend things will get better and I will be able to make more videos. So far, I have 0 plans for this weekend, and after work, I went to go get some more Java moss to put in my aquarium, and man, I put 3 patches of Java moss in there across the logs in it. Looks amazing. It's kind of hovering over the logs right now because it's not fully saturated. It still has bubbles in it, and those bubbles make it kind of float a little bit. So as soon as those bubbles dissipate, the moss is going to go right over the top of the log. So it looks like I've got green carpet laying on top of the wood, and it looks really cool. It like really pops too. The water, I did a water change also on it and got rid of that ugly brown teal water that I have in there before. So now it's crystal clear. So everything in the aquarium pops. And the grass is probably one of the best additions, if not the most amazing addition to the whole thing so far. Just wish it wasn't so bubbly. All right, I'm out, guys.